Hello, I am Stephanie Toller, and I am a certified health coach, yoga instructor, Ayurvedic nutritionist, and nutritive chef. I work one to one with clients to help them regain their health and vitality. I also hold retreats that focus on health education, cleanses, and somatic release. My approach to maintaining health and well being is holistic and also includes practices centered around nervous system regulation, mental and emotional health, self expression, and spiritual connection. Today, we will obviously be focusing on the physical body as we dive into the Ultimate Detox Workshop. It is my passion to share this information because it is so important for maintaining good health in our current world. So I will go ahead and share my screen now and we can dive right in. Please feel free to put any questions that you have in the chat if you're watching this live. And if you're catching this on replay, please don't hesitate to comment with any questions that you may have. It would be my pleasure and honor to connect with you. The Ultimate Detox Workshop. Let's get started. All right, so our goals today are to understand why regular detox support and cleansing is important. It's also to bring awareness to natural options, as well as give you tools and information to help you identify techniques that will work for you in your lifestyle. Topics include identifying toxins and reducing your toxic load, nutrition for a detox, as well as detox organs and what we can do to support them naturally. Now, please note, there are a lot of suggestions here today around diet and lifestyle. The key is really to use your inner wisdom and trusted professionals for guidance. We are all different. What works for a man may not work for a woman. What works for somebody who's very healthy may not work for somebody who has a chronic illness. What worked for us in our 20s may not work for us in our 40s and our 50s. And so it's really important that we practice self awareness and check in with ourselves and really use practices and techniques that are appropriate to us in our situation as it is right now. So, really respecting our bio individuality, even within our own lives. Yeah, I also think it's important to go slow, have love, patience, and compassion for yourself. This information serves to increase self awareness, and from this awareness comes change. So we're not really like pushing in any one direction or another. It just unfolds naturally as we become more aware and we live our lives. Disclaimer, you got to have one, right? I am not a doctor. This is not a diagnosis or a treatment plan. Please consult your doctor before taking supplements or making any other changes to your diet or routine. Who I am is somebody that cares deeply about public health, and I am on a journey just like you. We are all students in the school of life, and we're all learning together. Toxin awareness. Wow. Most of the toxic exposures that we face now in the 21st century have existed in the environment for only 70 years. The EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, has an inventory over 86,000, 86,000 man-made chemicals that are in the environment, many of them with little to no safety testing. Let that sink in for a minute. 86,000 man-made chemicals in our environment, new over the last 70 years, many of them with no safety testing at all. A high toxic load can really tap your body out, leading to adrenal exhaustion and other more serious conditions such as cancer, MS, multiple sclerosis, or dementia, and many other, lots of autoimmune illnesses, gut issues, major problems. Our genetics really determine where the chain breaks. So if we think about our genetics, right, we've got our DNA and it's like a chain, and our DNA has strengths and it has some weak spots too. When we continually stress the body, So in this instance, what we're talking about is stressing it through buildup of toxins in the system. What can happen is that chain can break, and it breaks in the weakest spot. And so that really is about our genetics. So if in my family line, the weakness is cardiac issues, then I may end up with heart disease. Or if my weakness is cancer, I'm probably going to get cancer, right? So it's going to manifest differently for different people. So really the genetics break the chain. Well, the stress breaks the chain where the genetics are the weakest. So the good news is that our body knows how to detox. The issue is that modern times require us to optimize these processes. So like I was saying, there's 86,000 chemicals in the environment in the last 70 years. So our, great grandparents, our grandparents, they weren't dealing with the same toxic load that we're dealing with now. So first we'll talk about detoxing in general, then we'll talk about types of cleanses, how to reduce consumption and production of excess toxins, and then we'll talk about ways to support the body in the detoxification. So who detoxing is for? So we should not be detoxing if we're pregnant or breastfeeding. The toxins they're generally stored in our fat cells. And when we detox, they get released into the bloodstream. And then they can be passed on to our baby in utero or through mother's milk. So it's very important that we're not engaging in detox processes during these tender times. There may be times where it makes sense for children and elderly and those with weakened immune systems to complete a detox, but they should be monitored by trusted health professionals because not all cleanses and detoxes are safe. And we'll get into that a little bit more too. So what it is and why to do it. Detoxing is a normal biological process that removes waste from the body. So the body removes toxic byproducts of cellular metabolism and normal body function. So these are called endotoxins. And endotoxins are basically the waste product of bacteria that are part of our system and functioning as part of our system. So the bacteria that lives in our bodies can create toxins that we have to process, and also exotoxins. So exotoxins are things that come from outside of us. So these are things, like air, food. We'll get into all of that too. So basically we're dealing with two sources of toxins, those that come from outside of us and those that come from within us. There are many types of detox programs that vary from clean eating to commercial products, dry fasts, and not even consuming water for days. So there's a variety of detox programs. They may be advertised commercially, offered at health centers, guided by health coaches online, or if you're working with one directly, or part of a naturopathic treatment. So there's so many different types of detoxes and cleanses, and we're going to kind of try to sort our way through them. Mainstream health websites, just a few things before we get into why to do it. Mainstream health websites, like the ones you'll find on Google, will often say things like, scientific evidence doesn't support detox claims. To this, I say these types of studies often aren't supported by the medical system because they don't push natural and simple fixes. They push pharmaceuticals and procedures. So there really aren't a lot of studies done on it. And what I like to think of when I contemplate health and what's true and what's not is I go back to the age-old time-tested traditions. So things like Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, even different religions and religious practices. Fasting, cleanses, these things have been part of human culture for a very, 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 very long time. And so to me, when something is time tested like that, there's at least a kernel of truth. So I think it's really important to remember that. So some pros of detoxing. So why you would do it, weight and fat loss. If you get a blood test and you come back with elevated liver enzymes or fatty liver. So bilirubin is a measurement of it's a liver enzyme. And I remember getting a blood test once after my mom passed away. I was very concerned about my own health and specifically concerned about my bilirubin levels. And it came back elevated. And the doctor basically said, you're fine. It's in normal range.
But when I actually looked at the blood test and I looked at what the normal range was and what mine was, it wasn't within normal range. It was slightly elevated. So a lot of times doctors will look at our blood test and they're comparing us to very sick people. That's who they're seeing. They're seeing sick people. So just because something comes back normal does not mean that it's optimal. So for me, I had elevated liver enzymes. This was, 2015, 18 years ago. Nobody, the doctor did not say to me, hey, you might think about a liver cleanse. You might not drink so much alcohol. You might want to back off of, the pharmaceuticals that you're taking that are affecting your liver, like ibuprofen. Nobody really had that conversation with me. So I think it's important that we're all getting together and having this conversation today so that we have information. And when we do encounter things like that, we have more to work with. So that's one reason. Improving insulin resistance, a lot of people, they're pre-diabetic. The doctor doesn't tell them to do keto, which is actually a type of fast that will help improve insulin resistance, or, taking breaks from food to give the organs a break. That's not something a conventional doctor will generally tell you. So looking to that for answers is not always going to be helpful to us. Reducing blood pressure, giving the digestive system a break, identifying food sensitivities, reducing PMS symptoms. PMS, when I was in my 20s, I had such bad PMS that I actually thought I had PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is, a result of estrogen dominance. And what I didn't know at the time, and what I eventually figured out, I cleaned up my diet over time. Took a long time. First, I stopped with processed foods, the soda. I stopped with fast food. Eventually I started cooking all my own meals, and then I went to, more organic, whole foods. So it was a process of cleaning it up. And over that time, my PMS improved dramatically. And what I've learned since is that if your body is busy detoxing alcohol and processed foods, it's not going to be able to detox estrogen, and you're going to end up with estrogen dominance. So a good reason to do a detox is PMS. Low libido and hormone imbalance, bloating or constipation, brain fog, or just generally feeling icky. It's also a great way, it's a reset to prepare for a new way of eating. So a lot of times I do, I just finished up a Yoga Plus Cleanse retreat. I have a couple people on the call right now who were part of that. That was a reset, hopefully to inspire those in attendance to prepare for a new way of eating, to go home and eat in a new way. Just going to check the chat here. Okay. Not relevant. So awesome. When to cleanse. Yeah. So spring is an ideal time of cleansing and renewal. Warmer temperatures allow the body to release toxins that have built up. It's also the season for sour and bitter foods, which encourages the liver and the gallbladder to release bile. So that's to flush the organs of toxins, is what's happening with that. And examples of these sour and bitter foods are dandelions and lemons, for example. And we'll get a little bit more into specific detoxing foods as this carries on. But spring is also a traditional time of year for fasting in many Native American cultures. It helps cleanse the blood after a long winter of fatty, heavy foods. And autumn is also a great time to cleanse, and sort of for the opposite reason of spring. It's a great way to build resilience for the winter months that are about to come. So cleansing the body and preparing for those heavier foods. But really, anytime you feel sluggish, tired, or simply want to optimize your health is the right time to do a cleanse. So a cleanse can help you eliminate cravings, wake up the digestive system, and really prepare the body for a healthier way of eating. So types of cleanses, these classifications I have here on the screen, extreme, moderate, and gentle, they're somewhat arbitrary. They're really a matter of opinion. Honestly, I kind of, did a brain dump of all of the types of cleanses that I know of that are out there. Cleanse and detox are sort of interchangeable words. Fasting is a little bit different, and we'll get into that. But on the extreme end, you have things like dry fasts, water fasts, juice fasts, the master cleanse, where you're basically just drinking a beverage made of, I think it's lemon, maple syrup, cayenne, maybe a little bit of salt. And in the You'll supplement with herbal teas, and in the morning there's a saltwater flush where you drink a ton of salt water, which is also a kriya, so a cleansing practice in yoga. So yogis, like hardcore yogis, will do the same thing. They'll drink this, mixture of salt water, and it will force you to the bathroom and flush out the colon. It's very effective. I had to do it in India. It was horrible, I'm not going to lie, but it is very effective. Um, so then there's also chelation, which is a process for chemical and heavy metal detox. This is a little more extreme. People use the word chelation differently. Um, Generally, this is a process that happens in a hospital supervised by a doctor where they're, basically running chelating binding products into your bloodstream and pulling out, chemicals, heavy metals. Some people may be, exposed to, I actually knew a guy and he was doing some sort of a cleanup after Hurricane Katrina and was exposed to a lot of chemicals and got really, really sick and had to go into the hospital. And basically, they cleansed his blood by pulling out the chemical. So that's pretty extreme. But you can also chelate naturally through things like cilantro is a natural chelator. Blueberry is a natural chelator. So there's, varying degrees of this process. Supplements and commercial products, I put that in the extreme category because honestly, a lot of them they're formulated products. So they're usually like shakes, supplements, different mixes that you'll be sold that they're not actually tested for safety. They're not really run through any sort of rigorous process, depending on where you're getting them from. So generally, I don't trust things like that. If I'm honest, I like to detox using food. I trust food. We've been eating it for a long time. Things that have been created in a lab and are unnatural, they do have a time and a place. For me, I just don't really vibe with that. I would much rather go to more natural products like food and herbal supplements. I see something in the chat here. Okay. And Sarah has commented drinking molecular hydrogen water as a form of cleansing too. Absolutely. Moderate. Oh, just ahead. So moderate practices are organ specific cleanses, and we'll get into the individual organs and what we can do to support them. Parasite cleanses, so these are usually like herbal formulations that are sold on the market. Intermittent fasting, it's not right for everyone, but I personally love it as long as it's not stressing the body. And so intermittent fasting is basically having windows of time where you're just not eating. And so some people might go 12 hours is a pretty normal window. So 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. To me, that should be normal. That's what everybody should be doing, honestly. But extending that window 14 hours, 16 hours, you get a little bit more intense with it if your body can handle it. And again, you're not getting a surge of cortisol and you're not thinking about food and stressing out about not getting food, then it's a really great thing to give the digestive system a break. It needs time between meals to process food. Panchakarma is it's a supervised process. It's an Ayurvedic approach. So you would go into an Ayurvedic clinic, meet with a doctor. This doctor would assess your health and then assign certain practices to help you to detox. Regular fasting. So this kind of goes with intermittent fasting, but this is more regular fasting. So sometimes people will have, a 1-day fast every week, right? They'll go for 24 hours every week. This works differently for different people. Not everybody can pull that off. Some people don't think about food that much, and it's great for them. And I think it's great too, as long as it doesn't turn into, again, a stressful situation or an eating disorder type situation. Candida cleanse is basically where you stop eating carbohydrates so that candida is yeast that feeds on sugars. And sugars, all carbohydrates that we eat will turn into sugar. That's something that the candida can feed off of. So candida cleanse will involve stopping carbs. It's basically keto. It's a form of keto. Candida is interesting. Thrush, older people, elderly people will get thrush in their mouths. Babies will get thrush in their mouths. And what that is an overgrowth of yeast infections. So when women have recurrent yeast infections, sign of too much candida in the body, candida overgrowth. And gross enough, you guys have to bear with me because we are talking about health. And I just want to be honest with you. I went through a period of time. I was a very unhealthy girl for a very long time. I've definitely done a complete 180. It's pretty amazing. I have to pat myself on the back, honestly. But at one point in my life, in my early 20s, I went through this phase where I would get plain yogurt, plain whole fat yogurt, which that's fine. That's not a problem. But I would take, granulated sugar and I would sprinkle it all over the top of the yogurt. And then I would eat a layer of yogurt and I would do the same thing again. And I ended up with thrush. So, adults, healthy people you would never think would get that, can get that. And it's just this yeast overgrowth. So candida cleanse is important to do if you are having symptoms of candida overgrowth. Elimination diets are and we're going to talk a little more deeply about elimination diets because they're actually a very important form of detoxing. But it's basically where you cut out certain foods to get them out of your system. And then when you reintroduce them, you notice how they're affecting you. The more gentle cleanses are a home Ayurvedic detox. So that involves eating a meal called khichdi, which is basically made from lentils, herbs, and rice, basmati rice. I have a recipe for it on my website. It's and I can share that. I'm going to send out an email just so everybody knows. I'm going to send out an email with the recording and also some more details. So I'll include the khichdi recipe there, but khichdi is a mono diet. So somebody would eat primarily khichdi. They might also add something else that's easy to digest, like oatmeal in the morning, just for variety. But it's basically a food that's so easy to digest that your body is able to absorb the nutrition, absorb the protein and fiber without your organs having to work too hard. And so your organs can still be moving into that detoxification process, even though you do have food coming in. A vegan, omnivore, clean diet. This is my favorite approach. So for me, when I feel like I need a cleanse, which generally happens after I go on a vacation, is the most typical. I'm like, oh, I'm 7 days in Florida. I'm down in Miami. I'm going to party with my friends. I'm going to go out a couple of nights. I'm going to have a few drinks. I'm going to eat whatever I want because most of the time I have a very clean, healthy diet. It's getting less and less. Honestly, what I'm saying to you now really doesn't happen anymore because now when I eat those things and I drink too much, I can feel it. I can really feel the difference in my system. But let's say I did do that. I would come home and generally I would go to a vegan, clean diet. And I would likely eat some khichdi as part of that vegan clean diet. So the vegan diet, it's all, whole plant foods. And yeah, it's very simple for our body to digest. It's low acidic, it's very easy, and it's got lots of fiber. And so it can really carry out a lot of the toxins through food. Herbal support. So we'll get into supplements a little bit as we go along, and wisdom tradition practices. So this will come in more when we talk about organ specific cleanses. So these are things like saunas, using certain oils like mustard oil, using enemas. These are practices that you can bring into your daily life, even when you're not on a specific cleanse or as part of a cleanse. So many different types of cleanses here. Hopefully you guys got a pretty good understanding of them, and we'll break them down a little bit more as we go along some of these. But they all have varying lengths, right? So a water fast could go 24 hours. It could go a week. Some people will do cleanses, maybe not a water cleanse, but maybe they would do an Ayurvedic detox, eating just khichdi for 6 weeks or more. Maybe they're really dealing with something and they just want to give their body a break and let things process through. So, I've known people that eat khichdi every single day as part of their regular diet. So there really is no limit. Some people are just naturally on a cleansing diet. I would say that for me, I'm pretty much on a cleansing diet most of the time, although I do eat meat and meat is acid forming. So sometimes we want to give that a break when we're going on these cleanses, but in general, a mostly plant-based whole foods diet is a clean diet. It's a cleansing diet. So the more extreme the detox, the more extreme the symptoms we're going to have as a result of the detox. So fasting, we're going to start with fasting, breaking it down. The symptoms and benefits really depend on the length of the fast. Fasting in general has been shown to benefit men but not women. Now, these are the studies that have shown this. I'm going to say from my personal experience, I think fasting is great as a woman, as me, as a woman. I can't say that it would work well for other people. You know, again, like I said at the beginning of this, really having some self-awareness, really checking in with your own body and how it's reacting to what you're doing is very, very important because things are going to affect all of us differently. We're all bio individuals. Um, so, you know, I think it's important to notice that. For me, my cortisol doesn't surge when I do intermittent fasting in particular. To me, it feels good to give my body a break, and I eat when I'm hungry. And usually by the time I'm hungry, I have had a window of 16 hours since my last meal in the morning, actually midday, I would say. However, one caveat to that is women who are trying to conceive really should not fast as it will mess with their menstrual cycle. Now, if a woman has been having a difficult time conceiving, a lot of times that's because there's a buildup of toxins in the system and things are not working as well as they should, and our hormones are imbalanced. And so it may make sense for a woman who wants to have a child to do some sort of a detox protocol or go on keto. I've known women who have gone on a clean version of keto and have been able to conceive after coming out of keto. Keto is a type of fast because we're burning fat specifically, right? So when we're burning fat, we're releasing toxins. So I would say that fasting in general, if you choose to do it, anything outside of intermittent fasting is not suitable for normal life. So things like going to school, going to work, socializing, working out, anything that requires your brain to be online and your emotions to be in check, I would not go into it after fasting. I would not have given this presentation while doing a 3-day water fast. There are a lot of symptoms that you have, and you know, things can come up, emotions can get scattered, and it can be a crazy time, I'm not going to lie. And by the way, you know, if you have questions about specific fasts or detoxes, any of the things that I've mentioned, I think I've done pretty much all of them except for a dry fast. So to me, I, you know, like to experiment. Obviously, I'm a health coach. I feel like it's important that I know how these things go down if I'm going to talk to people about doing it. So I've done a lot of these myself. So if you have any specific questions, I could maybe speak to them from a point of experience. So fasting, pros and cons. So really quickly, the dry fast. I just mentioned I've never done a dry fast. To be honest, I don't even understand dry fasting. We need water at a minimum to excrete the toxins that are coming into the system. So going without water, I really don't get it. We can't even live without water for more than 3 days to a week. But people do it. If you go online, people talk about it. They claim that it aids in weight loss, builds immunity, and improves mental well-being. To me, this feels really extreme, dangerous, and unnecessary. The average person, like I said, can't really live more than 3 days to a week without water. So I would never recommend a dry fast. Water fast, juice fast, there are pros and cons to all of that. So I'm going to just kind of lump them into a group. You could even, you know, the master cleanse, the one with the maple syrup, the cayenne, and the lemon juice could even go into this category of fasting, drinking teas, things like that. You know, you will lose weight fast. It's mostly water weight, and you can depend. So this is earlier, I said it depends on how long you do these things. Depending on how long you go, you can end up losing muscle mass too, right? So usually the window is about 3 days, I believe. So up to 3 days, you're losing weight, you know. At the 3-day mark, you're starting to actually lose lean muscle, which isn't good. We want to keep muscle on, right? One of the benefits is that it reduces alcohol, sugar, and sodium intake. It can lower blood pressure. So drinking more water and consuming less salt are associated with lower blood pressure readings. Medically supervised water fasts have been shown to be effective in lowering blood pressure in patients with borderline hypertension. Borderline. So it can be a great reset toward healthier eating, like I was saying earlier about the retreats. You know, you can get a sense of mental clarity. Brain fog will clear up with fasting, and it gives the digestive organs a break. There's also, I forgot to put it on the screen. It goes along with autophagy, which I'll talk about in just a second, but fasting can increase the production of human growth hormone. So that might be important to somebody who is a bodybuilder who wants to keep, basically it's a building hormone. So it helps with bone structure, muscle, preserving lean muscle mass. It has anti-aging properties. It basically keeps us younger, this human growth hormone. That's why we stop producing it as we get older. We produce less and less and less. There are other ways, too, by the way, to produce more human growth hormone that don't have to do with diet. So you can do it through high intensity interval training, things like that. There are also natural supplements that claim to increase human growth hormone, but that is a pro to fasting. And autophagy. So autophagy is basically cell recycling. So every day our cells are broken down and recycled. This process is called autophagy, and it's thought to play a role in preventing cancer, heart disease, and Alzheimer's. When the body goes into autophagy, it basically eats our damaged cells first. So it's really a cleansing process. So this is what I love about keto. Keto will put you in a state of autophagy, and it'll actually, it's when the body is using fat as fuel, will start eating the fat cells and the cells that are most damaged in the system. So there is limited evidence that water fasting can also help with heart disease. So there was one study that enrolled 30 apparently healthy volunteers into a 24-hour water fast. At the end of the fast, participants showed lower levels of triglycerides and cholesterol, which are two big risk factors for cardiovascular disease. It also improves insulin sensitivity. So insulin resistance is the main factor in the development of type 2 diabetes. So it's possible that short water fast can improve insulin sensitivity and decrease the risk of diabetes. So keto will also do this. I'm a fan of keto, not as I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, but as a way to cleanse the body of toxins that are stored in the fat cells, absolutely. As a way to improve insulin sensitivity, absolutely. So it restores our ability to burn fat as a fuel. A lot of us, in this culture especially, we are carb crazy, and carbohydrates are addictive. So we eat carbs and we eat more carbs and we eat more carbs. We eat them for breakfast, we eat them for lunch, we eat them for dinner, and we have a dessert, and it's just all the time, and our pancreas never gets a break. So it's really important to sometimes take breaks, and that's why I like keto, and that's why I like fasting and these other practices that just give those organs a break. But there are cons. There are also cons to fasting. It's not all good. And this is why it's really important that we check in with our body and we really notice how our body is reacting to what we're doing. So electrolyte imbalance, drinking large quantities of water and herbal tea and not eating any food for days in a row can lead to dangerous electrolyte imbalances. Our nervous system needs electrolytes to send signals through the body. So the body can really shut down. A lot of times with the water fast, people will recommend adding electrolytes to the water. So that is a way to avoid that. But water fasts are tough, man. I've tried doing it. I made it, I was planning to do a 3-day water fast, and I made it a day and a half in, and I don't get migraines ever, had the worst migraine of my life, the only migraine of my life, actually. And it was so bad that I decided to come out of it. And when I came out of it, I got nauseated and sick and had major digestive distress. It was a pretty horrible experience, honestly. So for me, I'll never do another water fast. I mean, I can't say never, who knows? But if I were going to do it, I would definitely probably do some kind of a step down process. So really taking the time to maybe move into a Kitchery cleanse for 3 days where I'm doing a mono diet and allowing most of the toxins to process through my system before even thinking about stepping into a more extreme fast, like a water fast or a juice fast, because they're really tough. And you don't want to be dealing with all of that at once, if that makes sense. So sort of a graduated process. But fasting, like I said, can cause headaches, fainting, weakness, and dehydration. People with certain medical conditions, including diabetes or kidney disease, they could be harmed if they consume too much juice or don't get adequate nutrients. Digestive upset, like I just mentioned, after restricting calories for an extended period of time, consuming food again, especially in larger amounts. Not that that's what I did, but being careful when you do start to refeed, um, it can cause digestive discomfort or nausea. So you have to be really careful about that first meal back. That second meal back, it's a graduated process. You taper in and you taper back out. Refeeding syndrome, though unlikely, people who reintroduce calories too quickly after extended fasting are at a higher risk for refeeding syndrome, which is a potentially fatal condition that involves rapid metabolic changes. And this usually happens in people that are extremely malnourished, right? So somebody with an eating disorder who then starts refeeding be potentially fatal. So this is a tender process. Our bodies are they have these very delicate systems that are operating within them. And it's important to be really respectful and mindful of that. Fasting can cause nutrient deficiencies. Any fasting protocol can put you at a risk for deficiencies. By restricting calories, we also restrict our intake of essential vitamins, minerals, fatty acids, amino acids, and electrolytes. All of these things we need to function correctly. So again, this really depends on how long you're doing the fast for. So the longer the fast, the more potential there are for these harsher symptoms. Unsafe blood pressure changes. So we said that it could help with blood pressure, but if you drink too much water, you can experience the opposite of hypertension, which is hypotension, extremely low blood pressure. So this basically involves a sudden drop in blood pressure upon standing up. So you might get dizzy, lightheadedness. That's one side effect. Another side effect is, obsessive or intrusive thoughts about food, which may cause you to binge eat when the water fast is over. So I'm obsessed with food. I'm not going to lie, right? Like I'm a nutritive chef. I'm eating breakfast. I'm thinking about lunch. I'm eating lunch. I'm thinking about dinner. What am I going to make? What am I going to have? It's part of my makeup. It's my constitution. I'm Pitta. In Ayurveda, it's a constitution body type, body, mind, spirit complex type. And for me, I'm always thinking about food. It's borderline an obsession. And so for me, doing a fast like this, an extreme fast, a water fast for 3 days, really, really tough for me to do. Like I said, some people can do it. Again, you have to just really pay attention to yourself. I was ruminating on food and how I wasn't eating food and how I needed food and how hungry I was. So it was problematic. More symptoms are dizziness, fatigue, and brain fog. These are all calories of extreme calorie restriction. It's hungry and difficult to pull off. And perhaps the biggest con from my perspective is that it just doesn't teach you about healthy eating. It just doesn't teach you about healthy eating. So a lot of people will swing between extremes where they have kind of a moderately healthy diet, sometimes unhealthy diet, and then they overcompensate with extreme measures rather than just keeping it clean and having regular practices to cleanse rather than taking more extreme measures. So that's my perspective. My perspective is, like I said earlier, I'm an Ayurvedic nutritionist, so I'm going to have more of that Ayurvedic leaning, which really focuses more on nourishment, rest, gentle movement, to move the lymph through the body, which is part of our detox system, simple cleansing practices and using herbal support. So that's more where I go when I think of cleanses and detoxes. However, I'm also not into dogma. I believe that self-care should be individualized. If I am, I've mentioned keto a few times. If I'm meeting with a new client and I'm looking at their diet and they're wanting to clean up their diet and lose weight and they mostly eat meat, we're going to go to keto because there's, more consumption of meat than a vegan diet. It's not going to make sense for that person. So self-care really needs to be individualized, using your intuition, self-awareness, and trusted professionals for guidance. Yeah. How's everyone doing so far? The chat's clear, so I'll assume you guys are good. Feel free to chime in if you have questions. All right, so how to cleanse. So this is like fundamental to understanding the process. Step one, well, let's see, hold on. Yeah. Step one, stop consuming excess toxins. So we'll talk about how we consume toxins through our diet and through the skin, through the air. Step two is to produce fewer endotoxins. So these are the toxins that we're creating inside of our bodies as part of our normal metabolic processes. Step three is nutrition for your cleanse. So really figuring out what to eat during the cleanse. And step four is supporting the detoxification organs as you go through the cleanse. So step one, consuming excess toxins. So what are exotoxins? Basically, they're chemicals that are found in food, air, water, pharmaceuticals, personal care products, everyday items. So these are things like everything on the screen, pesticides, herbicides, synthetic hormones, additives, and preservatives in food, right? So processed foods, they're going to have the additives and preservatives. Synthetic hormones in grown, conventionally raised cattle, chicken, eggs, right? So if you're not buying grass-fed beef, likely you're getting synthetic hormones. If you're not eating pasture-raised pork, likely you're getting synthetic hormones. If you're drinking, milk or consuming dairy products that are not or from organic grass-fed cows or pasture-raised goats, you're likely consuming synthetic hormones. Herbicides and pesticides, those come through our produce, right? So if we're not buying organic, especially the dirty dozen, which I'll get into in a minute, these are, fruits and vegetables that require the most pesticide and the most herbicide to grow. It's when we get the food from the store, we need to wash it. We need to, I have a spray called Veggie Wash. It's used, it uses a lot of essential oils basically to break down the pesticides and herbicides that are found on food, even organic foods. They're just grown with better pesticides and herbicides. But the thing is, pesticides and herbicides, and this is something I say on my retreats a lot. So if you've been on a retreat with me, you may have heard this already, but the reason they put them on our fruits and vegetables while growing is because they explode the guts of pests. If they're exploding the guts of these little bugs that are getting into the crops, what do you think they're doing to our guts? It's very, very important that we use a little brush, a little produce brush, and we clean our fruits and vegetables. We soak our berries with something like Veggie Wash. You could also use vinegar. There's a lot of different information online about how to do this, but really cleaning up the food that you're getting from the store, again, even the organic foods, and especially the non-organic foods, is important. Getting high quality food, high quality meats is important. High quality eggs is important. Dairy, et cetera, et cetera. Air, mold, dust, particulates, and chemicals from indoor air pollution. Open the windows, run an air purifier. If you are, in traffic behind, a truck with lots of exhaust, make sure your air is on recycle. Generally driving through the city in my car, I have the air recycling. As soon as I leave Asheville and I'm headed back to the country, back to Madison County, where I also live, I turn on outside air so that I have fresh air flowing in, right? So being mindful of these things. Water. So like Sarah was talking about earlier, getting high quality water, right? Like stuff coming through the pipes generally has fluoride added depending on where you live, which is a known neurotoxin. Chlorine, PFAS, which are forever chemicals. They're basically chemicals that are not expected to ever break down in the environment, and they're in the water. Microplastics, heavy metals. Getting a really good water filter is really important. I personally like Berkey. There's mixed reviews online. Honestly, it's really hard to sort through the information online because these companies, they're out for their own interests. So if I have a water filter, I am of course going to put out an article somewhere or pay for something to be done to make Berkey look like a bad filter. And if I have a Berkey, I'm going to dog out all the other filters. So it's really hard to sort through the information. I think that using your own intuition, tasting the water, using your senses to figure out the quality of the water is very important. We like to collect natural spring water, which we'll get into when we talk about water and how you can do that. Natural spring water and run it through a Berkey. That's my preferred method. Tastes great to me, feels cleansing. That's how I do my water. Pharmaceuticals, personal care products, and everyday items. So a lot of people don't realize that pharmaceuticals actually have a lot of toxins in them, and we can detox that stuff, but it's important to be mindful that a lot of times when we're taking drugs, because it's, don't get me wrong, I support taking prescribed medications when they're necessary. Absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes it makes sense. And other times it doesn't always make sense. Sometimes there are more natural solutions. So really exploring that and figuring out what you can do to minimize that exposure is so important. What you can do to improve your health so that you can eventually come off of the pharmaceuticals. Sometimes they can be a short-term solution, but yeah, really going to the root of the problem. Pharmaceuticals also can have anti-nutritive properties, so they can actually strip our body of, minerals and other nutrients, so our bones can suffer, right? Um, other parts of our body can suffer because we're not necessarily getting or retaining all of the nutrition that we need from our food because of interference from pharmaceuticals. Personal care products, deodorant, face lotion, right? Like there's a hair dye, there's a proliferation of dementia happening and a lot of other things that involve inflammation of the brain, right? There are food dyes that have been linked to inflammation of the brain. There are, people getting Botox. And I'm not, again, we live on Earth, right? We have to pick and choose our poisons, right? I'm not saying someone who, chooses to get Botox is a horrible person or doing a horrible thing. They're making a choice. We're all making choices all the time, right? But sometimes the choices can lead to things like inflammation in the brain, and being mindful of these practices. Cleaning products, non-stick cookware, toxic mold, even ink from receipts. I just want to touch on personal care products. With healthcare or with skincare routines, so I used to use Pond's. It's what my mom used. I felt like it gave me the most luminous skin and the fewest wrinkles until I found out about, the petroleum products that are in it and all of the damning things that it does to your body. And I ended up switching, and now I do a combination of rose water and vegetable glycerin, organic vegetable glycerin that comes from coconuts. And that's it. I mix these two things, rose water and glycerin. I spray it on my face and I rub it in, and I'm always getting compliments on my skin. There are also natural oils that you can use, rose hip oil, extra virgin, or sorry, virgin coconut, unrefined virgin coconut oil. Some people use olive oil. Oils are great. Deodorant, I want to touch on for a second because this is something that I've struggled with, right? Like, I don't want to smell. I don't want people to smell my BO. I have tried all of the natural deodorants. Honestly, they just don't work very well. So what I do is if I don't need to, I don't wear deodorant. When I take showers, I'll use exfoliator, like a facial exfoliator, and I'll actually scrub under my arms to keep those pathways clear, because we detox through our sweat, we detox through our armpits. And then when I'm going to a party or I'm going to interact with a lot of people and I know I'm going to be giving hugs, I will put on secret deodorant because it works. It works. I don't use it every day. I use it when I need to, but these are the choices that we make when we become aware of all of these toxins, right? So that's just my 2 cents on personal care products. But yeah, even ink from receipts, if you go to your yoga studio and they just cleaned the floor and they're using all this like antibacterial, I'm blanking out right now on what is it? Is it Lysol? What's the stuff that they sprayed on everything during COVID? I get it. It stops the transmission of things. I get it. But it also is toxic, quite honestly. And you're walking barefoot around on the floor and you're absorbing it through the bottom of your feet. Go home, wash your feet. Wash your feet before you go to bed. Just being mindful of all the ways that we take in toxins through our skin, through the air, through the food we're eating. Um, yeah, that's my 2 cents. So lessening exposure, go slow. Change isn't always easy, but it does always begin with awareness, like I was saying at the very beginning of this workshop. And also be patient and loving with yourself through these transitions. There was a time when I didn't know any of this. There was a time when I was super toxic, like not that I was super toxic, but I was consuming a lot of toxins through my food. I was doing all of the, makeup that you buy off the shelves that has a who knows what in it, what kind of metals in it. I would paint. A lot of paint, a lot of artists don't realize like, cadmium red has cadmium in it. It's a metal, right? And I would get it on my fingers and I would fingerprint and I would finger paint and I wouldn't wash my hands right away. And I had no real awareness of the toxins that were coming in through the skin. So it's important that we remember that we're really children. In the grand scheme of things, we're all on this journey, we're all learning, and it's very important to be patient and loving with ourselves through these transitions. So on to endotoxins. Oh, there was one other note that is probably worth mentioning. We're really working to reduce the overall toxic burden on the body so that our bodies are more able to handle the toxin exposures that we can't control, right? So making changes to skincare, making changes with food, making changes with our water at home helps us when we are in that situation where we're breathing in the fumes of some big truck that just passed by, or we're at the gas pump and we're breathing in the gas. By the way, if you're standing downwind at the gas pump and you can smell the gas, just go to the other side, go upwind from the gas. All right. Into endotoxins. So endotoxins are a toxic byproduct of normal processes like digestion. However, lack of education around the following leads to poor eating habits. So these are things like food stacking, poor food combining, hidden food sensitivities, proliferation of gram-negative bacteria, which is like bad gut bacteria, bad gut flora, and highly acidic diets. And we'll break down each of these things. But endotoxins can actually be seen on your tongue as a white or yellow coating in the morning or after meals. So I'll get into this later, but I like to use a tongue scraper every morning to scrape all of this off of the tongue because they're actually toxic byproducts. They're endotoxins coming out through the system, which if you don't remove, you actually reabsorb into the system. So you're creating this cycle where you're never getting rid of the toxins and you're reabsorbing the toxins and your body's having to process through them again. So it's important that when the body is attempting to detox, that we help it by actually getting rid of the toxins. So what is food stacking? Food stacking is when you do not allow proper digestion of one meal before consuming the next meal. So snacking, essentially. We used to be told that we should eat 4 to 5 meals a day to keep our metabolism up. Who remembers that? It's really silly because basically the body is never getting a chance to finish digesting the last meal, and then you're putting new food on top of it, and then it has to digest that. The body needs breaks. In our modern day American culture, we are making our digestive system work way too hard. If you think back to our ancestry, if you think back to 100 years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, most of us did not have the food abundance that we have now. Most of us were not surrounded by, endless supplies of junk food like we are now. And the body naturally had breaks. We naturally fasted. It was just built into our lifestyle. There wasn't always food available. What is food combining? So poor food combining leads to internal fermentation, indigestion, and putrefaction. So why wasn't this taught in health class? I don't remember learning any of this in health class, but it's important. Foods eaten together need to have compatible pH levels and similar digestion speeds. So compatible pH levels. Certain foods have an alkaline forming effect on the body, while other foods are more acidic. And it's believed that pairing foods with compatible pH levels makes digestion more efficient. Similar digestion speeds. So some foods digest faster than others. Proponents of food combining say that pairing food with similar digestion speeds is best to avoid overloading the digestive system and making it inefficient. So as an example, we'll get into it in a minute, but very obvious example, meat takes a long time to digest. Red meat takes a long time for the body to process. If we have a big old burger and fries, and we've had this really heavy meal, and then we eat a cup of blueberries, which digest so super fast. They break down so super fast. What happens is the blueberries just sit on top of that big heavy meal that you had, that big heavy burger, and they start to ferment and putrefy in the system, in our digestive system. Not good. All right, so bad food combinations according to Ayurveda, and also, traditional Chinese medicine lists different food combinations. I'm using Ayurveda because that's what I specialize in. But bananas and milk is a bad combo. Nightshades and cheese. Nightshades are plants that grow at night. There are lots. But yeah, mostly tomatoes, eggplants, and peppers is what I generally think of with the nightshades. Those are my first. Ashwagandha actually is another one. It's a nightshade. Ashwagandha is an herb, very popular herb used with adrenal fatigue. Anyway, dairy and fruit, beans and cheeses, meat and starches. So that burger and fries, not a good combination. Meat and dairy. If you look at the 6 examples that I have here, 5 of them include dairy. Milk, cheese, dairy are included in 5 of these. So dropping dairy is actually huge in terms of food combining. So once you drop dairy, many of the problematic food combinations drop away. And there are actually a ton of rules which can vary across different systems. I really liked what I found on the Banyan Botanicals website around best practices. And that is keep proteins simple and separate. Dairy is best eaten alone or with some grains. Do not mix it with other animal proteins. Fruit is best eaten alone or cooked in small amounts when combined with other food. The heavier the food, the heavier it will be on digestion. I got a little typo there, but that's okay. Digestion. Sometimes we need heavier food, but it's good to bring awareness to how we are affecting our overall energy through food. So I want to make a quick note about internet searches. So on the Healthline website, I found the following quote. So when you Google, questions about food combining, other more fringe practices, Ayurveda, TCM, generally you'll get websites like Healthline, Very Well. There are a few different ones that are very conventional, very, very conventional. And they'll say things like, most of the principles of food combining are not based on science, and there is no evidence to support the idea that improper food combining contributes to disease or toxins in the body. Conventional sites will always go along with conservative or governmental recommendations. These are not always accurate. There's this thing called regulatory capture, where governmental policy is influenced by private interest, professional licensure, and suppressed information. So basically, the FDA, a lot of these organizations, FDA, EPA, they're bought and sold, right? I think that, I don't know this for certain, but I heard somewhere at some point that like a former executive at Monsanto, and I absolutely believe it, Monsanto, who is responsible for the production of glyphosate, which is a pesticide used in conventional wheat, which is ruining the lives of millions of Americans through gut health issues and autoimmune diseases. But I've heard that a former executive at Monsanto is now head of the FDA. Right? So that's what regulatory capture is. It's where people with private interest, from corporations with corporate connections end up in government power, and they suppress information. They affect licensing agreements. It's called regulatory capture. And so there's this suppressed information. It's not always accurate. Again, like I said earlier, I like to go to wisdom traditions, things that are time tested. Ayurveda has been around for 5,000 years. 5,000 years. If they say that there's a problem with certain food combinations, I'm going to believe it because it has persisted for this long. And actually, when you start eating in this way, you'll actually know it in your own body. All right. Hidden food sensitivities. How's everyone doing, by the way? I'm just going to peek, see if there's anything in the chat. I got nothing in the chat. Please feel free to drop questions in there if anything comes up, but we'll keep going since I don't have any questions right now. So hidden food sensitivities. Hidden food sensitivities, the symptoms are vague, chronic, and delayed. Over years, so you could very well have one, two, many. Over the years, this hidden, I say allergy here, but hidden sensitivity takes a toll on the immune system. and it's usually related to poor gut health. So I I told this story at my last retreat, so if you were there, I apologize. You get to hear it again. But basically, I ran into some health problems. We thought they were hormonal. I ran a hormone panel. My hormone panel showed that I had severe adrenal fatigue. I was so disconnected from my body at this time that I didn't even realize it. And I was also so used to my everyday experience that I didn't realize how tired I was. Once I got that diagnosis, I was able to see just how exhausted I really was. But in order to heal the adrenal fatigue, I had to find out what my food sensitivities were. Because food sensitivities, like it says here, over time, it takes a toll on the immune system and it affects your gut health. Once it affects your gut health, you have leaky gut. Food particles are going into your blood, into the bloodstream without being digested, and it triggers the immune system. So the immune system is now, on full alert because of things that you're eating that you don't even realize are causing problems. And you're in this loop of, cortisol release. Basically, you can't heal your adrenal fatigue without stopping these foods that are triggering the immune system and wearing your body out. And so I was shocked when I did a food sensitivity test and it came back saying that I had extremely high sensitivity to gluten, dairy, and eggs. Gluten, dairy, and eggs. I ate gluten, dairy, and eggs every single day. I wasn't having, heartburn. I wasn't having gas or constipation. I wasn't having belly aches. I wasn't having any of the things that you would think you would have with a food sensitivity. I was instead having generalized fatigue over, days after eating the food and not really realizing the connection. So I had to quit eating these foods for a long time. And this is the elimination diet we'll get into in a minute. Then reintroduce these foods. And now I still have these sensitivities. I have not fully healed these sensitivities. They're better, but I'm more attuned to them. I'm more sensitive to the sensitivities. And so when I do eat wheat, which sometimes I do, I'm a human. Owl Bakery in Asheville. If you live here and you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. Their croissants are amazing. I'm not going to live the rest of my life not eating a croissant. I'm sorry. So occasionally I will have the gluten, but I know what I'm doing. And I know that I shouldn't do it before giving a presentation like this because I will get tired. It does affect me. I do get brain fog. I do get sleepy. But before the elimination diet and really like taking the time to see how these things affected me, I had no idea. I had no idea. So identifying food sensitivities. Let's see, where are we? Yeah, I jumped ahead a little bit. All right. So there's an Ayurvedic proverb here that says everything is medicine, everything is poison. I'm just going to explain that one really quickly. I really love that proverb because it's like what we're saying here, right? Eggs are generally a very healthy food, but if you've been eating conventionally produced eggs for a long time from chickens that were, eating the wrong foods, eating the wrong diet that affected the eggs, and now you've been eating the eggs and you have an egg sensitivity and you don't even realize it, now it's poison. Right? A generally healthy food has become poison. So it's important that we don't get too caught up with classifications on food and we understand more the bigger picture of how the food is affecting us in particular, not necessarily whether it's traditionally healthy or not. If that makes sense. So, and identifying food sensitivities. You can do a food sensitivity test like I did, which is really great as a first go at determining if you do have food sensitivities. That's something else I will include in the email that I send out today. I will send you guys all a link to a test that I really like. It's very simple to do at home and very easy to read the results. It cost, I think, $159. The one I did with my doctor was, $300, $400. I really can't remember, but I don't really think all of that is necessary, honestly. These simpler tests are totally adequate. They measure basically like your immune system response, the antibodies that are circulating in your blood at the time of the test to determine the sensitivity. So they can see the reactions to certain foods. Now, this test isn't perfect. It's not going to catch everything, but it's most likely going to catch the big ones, and it's stuff that you're eating all the time, most likely. and it's going to show up. But really, the elimination diet is the gold standard. So an elimination diet is where you stop eating certain foods, most likely the ones that have showed up on your food sensitivity test if you decide to do it. If not the food sensitivity test, then you may choose to eliminate the 8 most common food sensitivities, which we'll get into. And then you eliminate them for a period of time, and then you bring them back one by one. So generally, you will remove the most common sensitivities or allergens from the diet for about 6 weeks. I think this is on the next, remove the most common sensitivities or allergens for about 6 weeks. This allows your inflamed gut to heal and should be enough time to feel better and notice a change. And then when you reintroduce foods, you go one at a time. You introduce a top food allergen or food sensitivity, you eat it at least 2 to 3 times for 3 days to see if you notice a reaction. And if you do, you note the food and then you eliminate it for another 90 days. And you do this one by one new food each week. So it requires a commitment. Generally, I would recommend working with a health coach if you're going to go this route, someone who can guide you through it. If you're super self-motivated and disciplined and organized, by all means, go for it, do it yourself. I did it myself, but I'm a very highly motivated person. It just really depends on you and your level of commitment, but it's definitely something worth doing. All right, most common food sensitivities: dairy, gluten, and eggs. The top 3 that showed up for me: dairy, gluten, and eggs. GMO soy, fish, shellfish, nuts, corn, and nightshades. So what I want to say really quickly here is eating the higher quality version of these foods, so high quality organic dairy from grass-fed cows. If we had been doing it all along, most likely we're not going to be affected. Well, that's not true. A lot of people do have dairy sensitivities, but a better example might be gluten. So if we had been eating organic wheat products for a long time, we might not have a problem with gluten. But the problem is most of us have been on a conventional diet for a long time. And so our immune system, even if we eat the high quality organic wheat, it sees the gluten, associates it with the glyphosate, that pesticide that I was telling you guys about that Monsanto brought onto the market that has been damaging the guts of millions of people, if not more, probably billions of people at this point, considering the proliferation of processed foods and specifically, conventional wheat. Switching now to a high quality version of the food isn't going to help you because it recognizes the gluten protein as the problem, even if there's no glyphosate. Same thing with eggs. If you have an egg sensitivity, eating the pasture raised organic eggs is not going to help you anymore because it's recognizing the protein in the eggs as the problem. However, you can heal these food sensitivities. It does require staying away from them for a period of time. But like I said, you eliminate it for another 90 days, you bring it back, you check it out, see how it's affecting you. If it's still affecting you, you eliminate it for another 90 days and so on. All right, GMO soy, fish, shellfish, nuts, corn, nightshades. Common symptoms: headaches, migraines, fatigue, feeling tired, feeling bloated, achy joints, gastrointestinal distress, rashes and acne. I had eczema for the longest time on my feet, and the dermatologist, when I asked if there was anything I could do with my diet, said no, it's hereditary. However, when I cleaned up my diet, the eczema went away. Inflammation and weight gain, motion sickness, and other random ailments. So things you wouldn't even realize could be related to food. For a long time in my 20s and 30s, I would randomly get kind of nauseated and I didn't know why, and I could never make a connection. Now that I've come more in tune with my body and more sensitized to the foods that I eat, I have noticed that if I eat a lot of dairy, I end up with motion sickness. We have windy roads around here. I really noticed it while I was pregnant. Because you become even more sensitive. So motion sickness is not something you would necessarily associate with a specific type of food, but it very much can be related. So a lot of times the reactions are delayed. They can happen days after you eat a food, and they could be other random ailments that you might not connect to food. So it can be kind of hard to figure out sometimes, unfortunately. When diet is wrong, medicine is of no use. When diet is correct, medicine is of no need. This is an Ayurvedic proverb. So it's all about eating proper foods for you. So we're going to get into what to eat, what not to eat, what to eat, and how to eat it. So When you're trying to do a cleanse in particular, you don't want to eat alcohol, processed foods. You want to minimize any acid forming foods like meat, sugar, eggs, dairy. You want to eliminate the common food allergens. I don't know why I put allergens all over the place. What I really mean to say is sensitivities, but also allergens. Um, what not to eat, the dirty dozen. So every year, the EWG, the Environmental Working Group, puts out a list of fruits and vegetables that require a lot of pesticide to grow. And these are things like strawberries, blueberries, tomatoes, things with thin skin, right? So like avocados are not as affected. I don't think potatoes are really that affected, right? So there's the dirty dozen, and then they have what's called the clean 15. Changes every year. So, I would just go online and look. Maybe I can send a link to that with my email that I'll send out when I send out the replay. But basically, so the dirty dozen and refined sugars, but basically all of that, and then ingredients that you don't recognize, understand, or can't pronounce. If it doesn't make sense up here, it's not going to make sense in your digestive system. So don't eat it. Read labels. If you don't know what it is, don't put it in your body. Don't heat or store your food in plastic containers. Right? Microplastics are a real problem. And I like to use glass, ceramic, or cast iron, right? So when I'm cooking in the kitchen, or stainless steel, I should have put stainless steel on there. That's generally what I use. I cook in stainless steel or cast iron. I might use a glass baking dish, and ceramic is okay too. But, pay attention to coatings, Teflon coatings, things that will chip and come off of anything that's chemicalized, basically. If our ancestors didn't use it to cook, I would stay away from it. All right, what to eat? Whole foods. So these are fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans and legumes, healthy fats, quality proteins, fermented foods, herbs, and spices. Buy local, sustainable foods with an emphasis on organic, non-GMO, grass-fed, pasture-raised, and wild caught. So fresh food comes from nature, not a factory. The closer to nature, the better it is for your health. So fruit, fruit is nutrient dense with vitamins and minerals. It protects us from illness. It helps with collagen production, leading to healthier joints, skin, and hair. It's great for your brain health. Fiber keeps your digestive tract healthy. Antioxidants fight free radicals and reduce your risk of developing chronic diseases like heart disease, cancer, inflammation, and diabetes. It helps satisfy our desire for sweet taste. You can eat fresh fruit or dried fruits that have been soaked, and they also keep you hydrated, and they're a wonderful snack. Eating more fresh fruit will help you stay away from processed foods. I like to eat fresh fruit first thing in the morning before I've had anything else. Because of food combining. So fruit, generally fresh fruit should be eaten on its own. So eating it before eating other foods is always a good play. Vegetables are essential during a cleanse. Insoluble fiber gets the gut moving and improves vitamin and mineral absorption. Cruciferous vegetables, so these are things like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, and cauliflower. Artichokes and bitter greens like dandelion, watercress, kale, and arugula help to improve digestion. They support the liver and reduce inflammation. They also increase bile production, which improves liver, pancreatic, and gallbladder function. Bile helps the body to digest fats, and efficient bile flow clears the system of potentially inflammatory substances contained in fatty foods, like toxins that are stored in animal fats. They also contain glutathione, a compound that is essential for liver pathway cleansing. So glutathione is our master antioxidant. Looks like I forgot a little parentheses there, but that's okay. Nobody's perfect, right? But they are also nutrient dense, which means they're low in calories, but high in nutrients like essential vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants that promote cell structure, repair, and regeneration. Onion and garlic have powerful antibacterial and immune boosting properties. So I do want to just chime in on glutathione really quickly here. Glutathione is our master antioxidant. It's what keeps us young, right? And it's in our vegetables, it's in our fruit. You can also take it as a supplement. I like to keep a bottle of glutathione on my counter for times when I do go on vacation or I go out to eat at a restaurant and I know they're not cooking the way that I eat. I'll pop a glutathione that night. If I'm in traffic and I am behind a truck with a lot of exhaust and I didn't have my vent on correctly, I'll pop a glutathione that night. Glutathione will neutralize the free radicals, which are the damaging, they, I'm getting all worked up, can you tell? Basically, it neutralizes the free radicals that damages our cells and keeps us young, keeps our body young, it preserves our state of health. So glutathione as a supplement is awesome. All right. Whole grains. So most people should really go gluten-free. Our bodies just don't really know how to digest gluten, and wheat has been hybridized for so long, like centuries at this point, to the point where our body actually just doesn't know how to digest it. And it's really challenging for most people. So I would recommend going gluten-free. There are a lot of really great gluten-free products out on the market to help make that transition easier. I really like Ancient Needs bread. I also really like Sprouted for Life has the gluten-free bread. That's delicious. Yeah, so whole grains are an easily digestible source of energy. They're perfect to give your body a break so it can focus on cleansing, as long as it's not gluten, of course. They contain much more fiber than refined grains. So processed foods like white bread, most cookies, and crackers would be refined grains. Fiber sweeps clean the intestines and carries toxins out through the bowels. Rice, wheat, barley, and oats contain indigestible fiber that feeds beneficial bacteria to promote gut health, ward off pathogens, and benefits the immune system, of which 70% resides in your gut. So 70% of our immune system is actually in our gut. So our gut health is very, very, very important. Quinoa, amaranth, and rice are easy to digest gluten-free grains that provide a boost of wholesome energy necessary to provide your body with strength during a detox. White long grain basmati rice is a traditional, highly digestible Ayurvedic cleansing food with a lower glycemic index than short grain rice, and it helps keep blood sugar levels stabilized. Blood sugar levels stabilized. All right. Beans and legumes are high in protein. The 6 top benefits of legumes include being high in protein, promoting regularity, aiding in weight loss, boosting heart health, providing important vitamins and minerals, and stabilizing blood sugar. So they have high fiber content and they have a scraping quality. So they'll actually scrape your cells, clean them out. They promote satiety, which is fullness. They do receive criticism for having anti-nutrients and lectins, but they can be prepared to neutralize these, right? So really when you're dealing with beans and legumes, you want to soak them. You want to wash them first, soak them, and then rinse them. You want to strain them out, rinse them, and then cook them. And that will help to remove the anti-nutrients and the lectins. You can cook them in a crock pot to avoid excess sodium or table salt. So a lot of times when you buy them canned, they have a little too much table salt. Preparation matters. Oh yeah, so I said soaking. You can also sprout and ferment them. I love cooking beans and legumes in large batches, specifically chickpeas, and making tons of hummus, which is a great cleansing food. It's healthy, especially if you make it yourself. I don't recommend store-bought hummus. It's delicious and you can freeze it. I'll make huge batches of black beans and I'll just freeze, a Ziploc bag. So I let them cool. I put them into a freezer bag. I label them and I throw them in the freezer. And you do have to label them. It would seem that you would know what a black bean is when you pull it out of the freezer, but you can't always tell. So yeah, batch cooking is a great way to keep a clean diet. Healthy fats, this is very important. So always use high quality, organic, cold pressed, unrefined oils like flax oil, extra virgin olive oil, unrefined coconut oil, and cod liver oil. And also ghee. Cod liver oil, people have a bad association, but actually Carlson brand makes one with, they put lemon in it. It's actually delicious. Even my 3-year-old daughter drinks it. So it's very, very, very good for you. It's really great for your immune system. Do not use canola oil, grapeseed oil, or vegetable oil. These are highly chemicalized in order to become edible, and they're very, very, very harmful to the body. A lot of people don't realize that. And that's the problem with restaurant food is they're cooking with this crap. Vitamins A, D, E, and K are known as fat-soluble vitamins because you need dietary fat to absorb them properly. So we need fat in our diet. Avocado, raw nuts, and seeds are great sources of omega-3s, which are important for inhibiting inflammation. So that fish oil is great for inflammation. Ghee, which is basically cultured butter. It's what do they call it? Clarified butter. It's clarified butter. So they've removed the milk proteins. It's great for cooking and it's really great for gut health. And most importantly, do not cook oils past their smoking point. They turn into trans fats, which damage your heart and blood vessels. So sometimes people will grill and they'll use a lot of oils and they'll, burn the oils and the oils are smoking. Those are damaging to our heart and blood vessels. So it's really important to be mindful of that. Quality protein. So if you're doing a cleanse, I would say lean proteins are, a little bit better. I wouldn't necessarily go with red meat, but most cleanses like juice fasts are deficient in protein. So, you can get protein through beans, legumes, small amounts of animal protein are okay, but you can't effectively conjugate toxins without amino acids that bind to the transformed toxin in the liver to be carried out of the body. So protein actually helps drag toxins out of the body, and without these, toxins can build up. So protein is very, very, very important to the diet. Choosing high quality organic lean animal protein like pastured eggs if you're not sensitive to them. Chicken, grass-fed beef, buffalo, lamb, and wild game. Choose wild-caught low mercury fish like anchovies, clams, flounder, mackerel, oysters, salmon, sardines, scallops, sole, and trout. Vegetarian options are non-GMO, miso, tofu, and tempeh, pure hemp, or pea protein powders. Eat meat in moderation as a condiment. Too much animal protein is acid forming. So if something is difficult to digest, it's acid forming because we have to release more stomach acids in order to break it down. Fermented foods. So while yeast and pathogenic bacteria feed off of sugar, so the more sugar you eat, the more you crave, which feeds the bacteria, causing a lot of health issues, which we've already talked a little bit about. Good bacteria, however, on the other hand, break down lactose, sugar, and starches, the food, making digestion easier and maintains a healthy gut flora, boosting the immune system. Kefir is known to be antifungal, so candida, aka yeast, kefir can help with that. And then kombucha fights off E. coli and staph bacteria in the digestive tract. So some really great fermented foods are sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, dosas, coconut kefir, and kombucha. So dosas, just in case you don't know what dosas are traditionally in India, they're a crepe that's made out of rice and lentils that have been fermented. I love making dosas in a thicker form. So I make the batter and I make dosa cakes. So they're kind of like pancakes. And I eat them with, avocado or hummus on top. So it's a really nice, another nice fermented food that a lot of people don't know about. That's on my website. So you can see the recipes on mynurturedhealth.com. It has a dosa cake recipe on it. It's really wonderful. Herbs and spices. So we're getting close, you guys. Oh, I have something in the chat here. Let me just check this out real quick before I jump into herbs and spices. Can you have honey as a healthy alternative to sugar? Absolutely. Absolutely. Great question. And we'll actually get into alternatives. Yeah. All right. So herbs and spices in Ayurveda are actually considered the most detoxifying foods because they rev up the metabolism, especially things like cayenne and ginger, allowing your body to move toxins through the system while increasing absorption and assimilation of nutrients. So revving up the metabolism, when we heat the body, we stoke the digestive flames, right? We're stoking the digestive fire. So that actually helps us to digest food. It helps us to move toxins through the tract. So, adding ginger or cayenne during a detoxification protocol can be really helpful as long as you're not overheating, of course, you can handle it. So detoxing is a lot about heating up the system, which is why they use cayenne in the master cleanse diet, right? So I was talking about that beverage that they make with the maple syrup, lemon, and cayenne. That's because of the heating element of cayenne. Herbs and spices are high in antioxidants, very high, higher than most foods. And so these are antioxidants are what neutralize free radicals, which are unstable atoms that come from toxin exposures and that cause cellular damage. Those were the words I was looking for earlier in the workshop when I got tongue-tied. So free radicals, again, they're unstable atoms that come from toxin exposure and that cause cellular damage. So the more antioxidants we can take in, the more we neutralize these harmful free radicals. So if you're new to the world of spices, you can use spice blends. So a lot of people get intimidated about when to use cumin or coriander or rosemary or whatever. I would say using organic spice blends to add to your meals is a really great place to start. So if you're making an organic meal, get the organic Italian blend and just add it in. If you want to make, Indian flavored food, buy a curry blend and add it in, right? So it can be very simple. If you want to make chili, you want to make a vegan chili with black bean and sweet potato and tomato, you can just get an organic chili blend and add it in, right? So you don't have to get too heady about which spices when, just use spice blends is a really great way to go. And as you get more sophisticated in your cooking, which I'm sure many of you are already there, you can use specific spices to spice up your meals. Salt is a really, really important point here. And this, again, is the problem with restaurant meals or processed foods is they're using table salt. So things like Morton's. Do not use refined table salt. It is highly refined, chemicalized, and does not contain important trace minerals. If your body is craving salt, you are best off to choose sea salt or Himalayan salt. I'm getting all kinds of tongue-tied today. It's okay though. Because when your body is craving salt, it's actually craving the trace minerals that it has associated with salty taste for thousands, if not more years. And when we use table salt, we don't scratch that itch. We don't, actually receive the nutrients that our body is looking for. So very important. All right, what's next? All right, herbs and spices of note. Ginger increases metabolism and circulation. I love ginger. I have poor circulation. Almost every day I have ginger in some form. I either put it in my food, I have honey lemon ginger tea, I have golden milk. All of these recipes are available on my website if you're curious. Cinnamon increases circulation. Peppermint soothes the stomach. Cilantro is a great digestive and detoxicant or metal chelator. Parsley is a great diuretic. Unlike other diuretics, it allows for water excretion without the loss of electrolytes, which is awesome. Turmeric is an anti-inflammatory and reinvigorates the blood. It's a powerful blood mover that restores circulation, cleanses the liver, and reignites metabolism. Neem and cardamom can help with cravings. So there are a lot of herbs and spices that can help with cravings, actually. Metabolism, circulation, detoxification, and weight loss. I would speak to an Ayurvedic TCM or herbalism professional if you're curious about those. So replacement. So Tammy already asked about honey. Yes, honey is a great replacement for sugar. So that's actually first on my list. So replacing sugar with honey. The thing about honey is you don't want to heat it up. You don't want to bake with honey. When honey is heated to high temperatures, it actually becomes toxic in our body. It's not commonly known, but it is a real thing. So generally, that's not my first choice of baking. With baking, I'll usually go with maple syrup. But you can also use monk fruit, stevia, dried fruit, or ripe bananas. That's another thing I like with baking, right? If I'm going to make muffins, I'll usually mash up ripe banana, and I'll use that. I make homemade pancakes a lot, multi-grain pancakes, I call them. So I'll just use whatever I have, whether it's oats or I've made pancakes with quinoa before. You can use all kinds of things, but I'll usually throw a mashed banana in there. Replacing dairy, you can use almond milk, hemp milk, coconut milk, Ancient Awakenings coconut kefir. So it's a really clean coconut kefir that I like to use as a sour cream replacement. Cashew cream, nutritional yeast. Miyoko's brand cheeses are delicious, and they actually use really clean ingredients. They're based cashew based. They usually have nutritional yeast, miso, and then ghee is okay. So ghee is technically dairy, but it's had the milk solids removed. So if you have a dairy sensitivity, ghee generally is still okay because it's actually the solids that we're reacting to. But again, you have to pay attention to your body, notice how you're reacting. But ghee is a nice substitute. Replacing gluten with, like I mentioned, dosas earlier, those dosa cakes that I like to make. Also, Lundberg organic rice cakes. They're super clean. They just have rice. Those are a good replacement. Mary's Gone crackers, the seed crackers are really, really clean. And then quality gluten-free breads. I think I already mentioned Simple Needs is a good one. And also Sprouted for Life has a really good gluten-free bread. The Sprouted for Life, you can't even really tell, honestly. And it's pretty clean. Good one. And then enhancing meals using mustard, cacao powder or nibs, coconut aminos, lemon and lime, miso, nutritional yeast, olives, sea salt, and vinegar. So I love using lots of condiments. They're also really good for us. Hydration. This actually deserves to be a lot further in. By the way, we are getting there. I promise you guys. We have a few slides left, but we're getting there. But hydration should have been earlier on, actually. It's one of the most important things, maintaining good hydration supports the kidneys to flush out toxins. We all have different needs for how much water we need. If you have good thirst signals, I would go with that. I would pay attention to my thirst signals and go with that. If you don't, because thirst signals can become muted. Mine were muted for a really long time. I actually had to tune into all of that. Feeling thirsty right now, and I don't have water, which is a tisk on me, but I'll get some after I'm done here. But if you don't have good thirst signals, if your thirst signals are muted and you're just not super in tune with, do I feel thirsty? Do I not feel thirsty? I know it sounds silly to some people, but it's a real thing. A good rule of thumb is to drink half your body weight in ounces. So if you're 150 pounds, 75 pounds, 75 ounces. So it's half your body weight, and then you drop the pounds and replace it with ounces, right? But basically, you want to drink enough water so that your urine is clear and that you're not going long stretches except for overnight without urinating. So for most people, this is going to look like 60 to 75 ounces of water or more each day. I will say too that, fats keep us hydrated as well. Oils keep us hydrated as well. So it's a rule of thumb. It's not an exact formula that works for everyone. It really depends on how much liquid you get with your food, how many oils and fats you're taking in, how active you are, right? So if you need the rule of thumb because you're not super in tune, I would start with that. And then over time, I would really try to pay more attention to how thirsty you are. We need water. Water helps our entire digestive system function well as all other systems in the body. The body is 70% water. We need it. So what to drink? Swap plastic bottles for reusable glass or stainless steel water bottles to decrease exposure to plastic and chemicals like BPA. Filter water for drinking, cooking, and bathing. Collect spring water if you can. So it says findaspring.com right there. Findaspring.com is a website that you can go to. You can put in your zip code and find springs in your area, and people will report on quality at that website too. So you can see how they're running and hopefully find something near you that works. But some people don't like drinking plain water, right? But you can do plain water with lemon. You can do coconut water, which is super hydrating and has natural electrolytes. Honey lemon ginger tea is really, really great for your immunity. It's great for your digestive system. It's great for your metabolism. It's really cleansing. It's one of my favorite things to drink. Sometimes I'll make a huge batch of honey lemon ginger tea, and whatever I don't drink while it's hot goes in the fridge, and then it's like lemonade. It's like a really nice, healthy lemonade that I can drink later, ginger lemonade. Kombucha, when you choose kombucha, you want to make sure there's no refined sugars. So my favorite brand is Synergy. They actually use kiwi juice as the sweetening factor to build the kombucha on. So Synergy is a really good brand. Coffee fix. I also could have put in here dandy blend. So these are coffee alternatives. You mix them up just like instant coffee, and they taste similar to coffee. It's not a dead ringer. Not everyone loves it. I personally love both Coffee Fix and Dandy Blend. I can send links out to where to purchase these if you want in the follow-up email to this. But Coffee Fix and Dandy Blend are amazing. They have lots of dandelion. Dandelion root is really great for detoxifying. And the Coffee Fix actually has, adrenal supporting herbs in there as well. So there's some ashwagandha and I think gotu kola in there. So there's some different herbs that can really help nourish the adrenals while getting that coffee fix. That's why it's got the clever title there if you are coming off of coffee. Aloe vera is really great for inflamed bowels. Golden milk is lovely in the evening. So golden milk is a traditional milk. Usually it's made with dairy in India, but here in the United States, if you find golden milk, it's typically made with plant milks. So I love doing a combination of almond milk and coconut milk. It just has the best canned coconut milk with full fat. It just has the best consistency to me. And then you add in ginger, cardamom, cinnamon, nutmeg. I'm not sure what else. I have a recipe. No, there's one more. I feel, oh, turmeric, the thing that makes it golden milk, turmeric, which is also super great for the body, great for immunity, great for inflammation. Golden milk. The turmeric is also a nervine, so it will help relax the nervous system and can help with sleep. And then, good old-fashioned tea, which didn't make it onto the slide. There are detox supporting teas, which actually is the next slide. So we'll get into that. So detox supporting teas like milk thistle for gentle liver detoxification support, dandelion root. It's often ground with chicory to make coffee replacements. You can also just get tea, organic roasted dandelion root is a really great detox tea. Nettle tea, so stinging nettles are a mineral-rich herb, often taken as a tea. They can act as a gentle diuretic and aid in toxin removal. And green tea, which will give you a little boost of energy as well, contains EGCG, which is a powerful polyphenol that supports the body's ability to detoxify. So matcha tea is a form of green tea that's actually the most potent form of green tea as far as antioxidants. I don't personally love the taste of green tea, so I'll just tell you what I do real quick. A lot of times I'll do a little bit of matcha and I'll do a little bit of organic rose powder, and I do matcha and rose together and make a delicious latte. It's amazing. And so when I originally put this deck together, I also had a sample for a clean diet, and I went through breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks and desserts. I'm going to include that in the email. I actually took it out of the deck because I wanted to be mindful of time. There's so much information to share. And that's something that it's really nice to have a visual reference if you're trying to think of what to eat. So I'm going to send that out separately for you guys. How to eat is an important, not to be missed. It's easy to miss, but small sips of water during a meal will aid in digestion and absorption. However, you don't want to drink iced water. Iced water dampens your digestive fire and slows digestion. And I know some people get really hot and it's satiating to them. I can't get my dad to stop drinking ice water. I've been trying for years. But just for what it's worth, it will dampen digestion. So your digestion is like a fire, right? You got to stoke the flame and keep it going. You don't want to pour cold water on it or cold anything really that will put the fire out. Proper chewing is essential to good digestion. You want to chew your food to a paste that is thoroughly mixed with your saliva. This helps break down the food and send signals to your digestive system for proper enzyme excretion. So if you eat too fast, your body actually misses these signals and doesn't have time to prepare the digestive tract for the food that you're eating. And so then you're not able to break it down and you're not able to absorb it efficiently. And this leads to a buildup of toxins in the body. You want to eat while calm in a calm environment. So using breath work can help you switch into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest part of the nervous system. So we don't want to be in fight or flight. We don't want to be watching the news. We don't want to be talking about stressful things. We don't want to be thinking about stressful relationships or having an argument with somebody while we eat. We don't want to be driving, our nervous system, we're hypervigilant while driving, we're watching out. We want to eat while we are calm, while our nervous system is in the appropriate state to actually digest our food. Things that can help with that are breath work. So taking calming breaths, extending the exhales, lengthening the exhales compared to the inhale. So maybe it's a 1-2 breath. So you're inhaling for 4 counts and you're exhaling for 8 through the mouth, nice and slow, calming yourself down. I could probably benefit from some calm breaths right now, right? Prayer calms us down. It aligns us with our food. It puts us into a place of gratitude. Putting on calming music, solfeggio frequencies. There are certain music that is made to actually calm the nervous system. So seeking that out, putting that on while you eat is great. And then don't snack. Grazing and snacking throughout the day overburdens the digestive system, just like we mentioned before. All right, so getting into the organs, this is kind of the last section of our workshop today. So the body's main detoxification organs are the liver, kidney, colon, skin, and lungs. The liver transforms waste products and toxins through the urine, bowel, breath, or sweat, and it requires a lot of nutrition. A solid foundation of nutrition from real food supports detoxification of the liver. This is why the food you eat is critical for your health. So the liver responds very well to dark leafy greens, garlic, raw vegetable juice, right? So for a while, I was waking up every day craving ABC juice, which is apple, beet, carrot. And I usually put celery and some other things in there too, but I was craving it so bad. And I'm pretty sure it was because my liver was needing extra support, right? So tuning into those healthy cravings. Apple cider vinegar can help flush the liver. Lots of water, especially lemon water, is great. And green tea and coffee in moderation. In moderation. All right. So, I was going too fast here. Castor oil packs. So the liver can be supported by castor oil packs. Castor oil packs, you essentially take cotton or flannel, soak it in castor oil. You place it onto, you might put wrap it in, well, you would basically place it over the liver and then place some plastic, plastic wrap, something to protect it, and then place a heating pad over it. And you might do that for a certain period of time. You'd have to go online and really look into this more if you're planning to do this, but castor oil packs, so leaving a castor oil pack over the liver for a set amount of time, it varies depending on what you're trying to achieve, can help to detox the liver. Coffee enemas. Coffee enemas open up the bile duct in the liver. So caffeine is absorbed and goes directly to the liver where it becomes a very strong detoxicant. There is a special coffee for this. So you would want to go online, most likely is where you would get it, and buy an organic coffee that's specifically meant for enemas. Okay. And there's all kinds of liver cleansing products on the market, different herbal blends. I would say proceed with caution. Always be mindful of, if you have a weak liver, you might want to talk to your doctor. Well, you should talk to your doctor. And if you are taking certain medications or taking any medications, you want to make sure that there's not going to be an interaction, right? I put more with a question mark because the free market, man, there's so much available. Who knows what's out there? I'm sure there are lots of other supplements and cleansing protocols and products available. You would have to search if you want to know more, but these are kind of the most time-tested, proven, liver supporting practices that you can do. If anyone has any more practices, please feel free to throw those out in the chat. The kidneys. So the kidneys remove extra waste or they remove waste and extra fluid from the body. It's important to hydrate. The most common reason for the formation of kidney problems is lack of water, poor hydration. And then stop smoking. Smoking is the primary cause for urinary tract cancers. This may surprise some of you guys. I really don't care. I'm an open book. I feel like my experience is important. And with the legalization of marijuana that has been happening in the United States, I think it's going to be even more important to share this message. But, I had bladder cancer. My bladder cancer, the tumor, I believe was caused by weight loss herbs and chronic marijuana smoking when I was younger. Marijuana, they talk about tobacco smoking as being the number one cause of kidney cancer, of bladder cancer, of lung cancer, and they never talk about marijuana smoke, but it's an important topic because actually marijuana smoke hasn't been studied because it's been illegal for so long. That's why they don't usually list it as a cause of these cancers. But there are over 600 carcinogens in common between marijuana smoke and tobacco smoke, right? So those are toxins that we're bringing into the body. They're, cancer causing toxins. So it's important to be aware of that. So if you know somebody that puffs a lot, I would give them a little warning because definitely it can happen. It happened to me. All right, the kidneys. So some things to help with kidneys. When dates are soaked in water for a day and then consumed, they can help flush kidney stones. The magnesium, copper, and manganese also helps keep the kidneys healthy. Potassium-rich fruit like grapes, oranges, cantaloupes, bananas, apricots, and prunes help maintain electrolyte levels to improve kidney function. Barley water cleanses and repairs the buildup of kidney toxins. Tart cherry juice consumed daily is known to clear the buildup of excess uric acid, a byproduct of kidney filtration. Vitamin C can help dissolve kidney stones. Taking regular lemon juice with honey reduces pain and dissolves kidney stones quickly, depending on how bad they are. Vitamin B in kidney beans helps to flush kidney stones and regulate functioning. Omega-3s and especially cod liver oil can help reduce kidney inflammation. The kidneys. Activated charcoal can flush lingering toxins from the kidneys and liver. Also very good for gas. It's really important to read the bottle directions because activated charcoal can interfere with the absorption of medicine and nutrients. It can also cause constipation if you take it too close to eating food. But I usually keep a bottle of activated charcoal in my bathroom on my bathroom shelf so that for me, generally, obviously it's great for flushing toxins if I'm feeling like I need a flush. If I wake up in the middle of the night to pee and I'm in a detox process, I'll pop them in the middle of the night because they'll just run through the system and capture any toxins and process them through. It's also great for gas. So if you're gassy, if I eat bean soup at someone's house and it's homemade and they didn't prepare it properly and I do get really gassy, or if, it's not made with a lot of digestive spices and I, start to feel, bloating or gas in my system, I will also take activated charcoal in the middle of the night to help calm that. And in the morning, there's no longer an issue. It's very effective. Gokshura is an Ayurvedic supplement that can help with recurring urinary tract infections as well as recurring renal stones. Something else that's really great for recurring urinary tract infections is D-mannose, which is the natural sugar. It's a sugar, and it basically, it neutralizes infections. It's very effective. There are lots of kidney flush products on the market. There's lots of different herbs that are supportive, such as dandelion, marshmallow root, nettles, juniper, parsley, red clover, goldenrod, ginger, and turmeric. And of course, I have that more with a question mark because you never know. There's always more. All right. The skin. The skin is our biggest detox organ. I mean, it's huge, right? So we want to opt for more natural products, avoid endocrine disrupting chemicals in personal care products and makeup by opting for more natural products. So like I was talking about rose water and glycerin for skincare. I use it on my face. I use it on my legs after I shave. Olive oil soap, natural olive oil soap is great. That's the soap that I use in the shower. We want to sweat. So high intensity exercise that gets the blood flowing and breathing deeply is great. We can sweat in a sauna. We have the infrared sauna helps muscles to relax while moving metabolic waste products. We do have an infrared sauna at Sacred Mountain Waters, the retreat center. So if you ever come for a retreat, you can relax in the sauna and get that good detox going. I highly recommend it. Um, Sweat in an Epsom bath, right? Epsom baths are so relaxing. Our bodies absorb all the magnesium, which is very calming. It's really good for our nervous system. And yeah, it makes us sweat and is very detoxifying. Wash your feet. Detox foot baths, right? You can get different foot baths online. The soles of our feet are very absorbent. So being mindful of that and really washing the feet at night, even if you don't take a full shower. Using a tongue scraper, like I was saying, I use a tongue scraper every single day. I will say that no matter how clean I get my diet, I always have endotoxins on my tongue. I don't know if I'll ever if I'll ever have a day before I die where I don't. Hopefully, but we'll see. Oil pulling. So this pulls and removes pathogenic bacteria from the mouth. So what this is there are different types of oils you can use. Most commonly, people will use an extra virgin, unrefined coconut oil. It's the most pleasant. And you take, varying amounts, however much you can handle. I would start with a teaspoon and increase from there, but you swish it around and you can swish it around for 15 minutes to half an hour and then you spit it out. When you spit it out, you want to spit it out in a garbage can. You don't want to spit it out in a drain because it can mess with your plumbing when it hardens, very thick. But yeah, the more you can swish around with, the better. The longer you can go, the better. Not everyone is going to be committed to a full tablespoon for a half an hour every single day. What I will say is do what you can. It's really great for your dental health. It's really great for the bacteria that are living in your mouth. It's great for teeth whitening. It's great for dental infections. It also pulls toxins out through the mouth, through the tongue. And so, yeah, just swishing it around for, even 5 minutes a day is really, really useful. Dry brushing. So that's when you take, a brush. They look like the back scrubber brushes that you shower with, and you brush toward the heart. You brush your entire body, and this moves your lymph. The lymphatic system does not have a pump like the circulatory system has the heart as a pump. So we have to move it, and we do that through exercise and also through dry brushing. And it's sort of the sewage system of the body. So we want to move it. We want to get it moving. We want to keep it clean. Also lymphatic drainage massages. If you have someone that does that near you, it feels so, so good. And it's really cleansing for the body. And then bentonite clay. So you can create a mask and you can do a face mask, an armpit detox, a foot detox using bentonite clay, and it will literally draw toxins out through the skin. We are getting so close, you guys. The colon. Stay regular. So when stool sits in the colon for too long, so when you become constipated, toxins that were on the road to elimination can be reabsorbed back into the bloodstream. So your body was trying to get rid of it. You were constipated and it got reabsorbed into the bloodstream. And so now your body has to deal with it again, adding to the burden of the body. So this is a burden on the liver since it has to clear these toxins a second time. You want to stay with a high fiber diet. This can help keep you regular. You want to make sure you're well hydrated, eating fiber rich foods, and moving your body daily. Triphala is an Ayurvedic blend of herbs and natural laxatives. It can have drug interactions. So if you're taking prescription medication, I would look into Triphala before taking it. But its cleansing action its cleansing action supports detoxification and weight loss. It also has antibacterial, immunomodulator, antioxidant, blood purifying, and wound healing properties. It is potent, highly medicinal stuff. Yeah, probiotics. Probiotics, digestive enzymes, and magnesium all benefit digestive health and help you stay regular. So the biggest consequence to taking too much magnesium is diarrhea. So you'll end up with loose stools, and that's how you know you've had enough magnesium. You can also, I mentioned earlier, doing a salt water flush to flush the colon is also a possibility. All right, bentonite clay can lead can bind to lead and other heavy metals as it moves through the stool. It also can help with constipation. So when using bentonite clay internally, you want to follow directions. It can bind to some medications and reduce their effectiveness, just like the activated charcoal. You want to consult your doctor. You can also get your own enema bag. One of the best gifts I ever received was actually an enema bag. I was shocked to receive it, but now I actually am really grateful that I have it. I don't use it a lot, but it is helpful occasionally, and it is really great for detoxing. You can use salt water. You would use 2 level teaspoons of sea salt to a quart of lukewarm distilled water. You can also go for colonics. Colonics are a procedure that happens in a clinic or some kind of a therapeutic setting, and they are intense. I've had a couple of colonics, and honestly, they were almost as intense as childbirth. So proceed with caution. All right, guys, the lungs are our last organ, and then we're going to talk about sleep, and then we're going to wrap it up. So we're almost there. So with the lungs, filtering indoor air and being aware when outdoors, standing downwind from the gas pump, avoid smoking, avoid smokers, using proper ventilation when working with chemicals like painting interior walls, or, I work with resin. Sometimes I make resin art. It's really important that I have proper ventilation. So anything where you're going to have fumes, breathing them in. Take your shoes off to keep out dirt, fertilizers, and chemicals that are on your shoes. Change all of the filters in your home and clean all of the vents. So the bathroom, the AC, and the heat vents. Replace your furnace filter every 6 months. Don't use artificial scents. So candles, Glade plugins, air freshener, these fragrances are often full of harmful chemicals that can irritate your lungs. I like to use sage or Palo Santo. So burning sage or Palo Santo, which is a really beautifully fragrant wood from South America. Used to grow all over where I lived in Ecuador. The air just smelled like Palo Santo all the time. It was incredible. So you can burn those in your home. These are air purifiers. You can also make your own potpourri, like, mama and grandma used to do. My mom used to make it with orange peels, cinnamon, clove, pine, etc. So these are natural air fresheners, right? And you can use natural cleaning products in your home in order to avoid chemical exposure. My number one cleaning product that I use at home is apple cider vinegar. You can clean pretty much everything with apple cider vinegar. All right, steam therapy can be useful for the lungs. Using a humidifier in the dry season, so late fall to early spring around here, you can spend more time outside. Fresh air can help expand the tissues of your lungs and keeps them working properly. Breath work, go to yoga, do that diaphragmatic breathing, belly breath. There's something called 3 parts breath, right? You can look these up. Diaphragmatic breath, 3 parts breath can help with detoxing the lungs, but even just being mindful, taking deep breaths, full exhales. When you exhale, squeeze it all out. Full inhale, let the belly fill. Exhale, squeeze it all out, right? Using breath work to clean the lungs. There's something called chest percussion or postural drainage. To do this, you would grab a friend that you trust, check out YouTube, and see if they'll help you out. Yeah, proceed with caution. I would say proceed with caution, but it is a recommended way of detoxing the lungs. And then aerobic exercises. So walking, running, cycling, swimming, dancing, boxing. Aromatherapy and chest rubs. So essential oils can help soothe the throat, reduce inflammation, and clear away mucus too. So these are things like rosemary, eucalyptus, oregano, peppermint, tea tree, cinnamon, and lemon. Mustard oil has a heating property that can help clear congestion from the respiratory tract. So a mustard oil steam treatment is an Ayurvedic home remedy. You can rub about a teaspoon of it on your chest before sleeping to let it work its magic. Another home remedy is to make a mixture of 1 tablespoon mustard oil to 3 cloves of garlic and rub it on your feet. So this is an old Ayurvedic remedy. And then, of course, there are lots of lung cleanses that are found on the market. And then lastly, sleep. So sleep is kind of like hydration. It should have been much earlier in the slideshow, but it sort of fit here the best at the end. But when we sleep, that's when our body is detoxifying. It's when we're detoxing, is when we are asleep, right? So you want high quality sleep. It's very important for daily detoxing and recovering from illness. You don't want to eat before bed, especially meat or other hard to digest foods, right? Give the body some time to digest before you go to bed. It's cleaning itself at night. If it's digesting new food, it cannot clean the body, right? Very important. Reduce screen time at night. This will help you to get deeper sleep. A relaxing nighttime routine, and get to bed before 10 p.m. An hour before midnight is worth two after midnight, as the saying goes. So going to bed, I try to be in bed by 10 every single night. Sleep in a very dark room with cool temperature so you can sleep better. Crack a window, and use a fan for circulation or to create a noise floor. You can also use a sound machine. There are some herbs that can really help with sleep, such as CBD, or nervines like turmeric and nutmeg can also be helpful. So golden milk is really great, like I said earlier. And yeah, so sleep is very important. Sleep, hydration. And then my overall suggestion, right? So in general, oh, well, this is the recap, but my overall suggestion before we even get into that is really to have a regular healthy diet with gentle detoxifying practices mixed in through things like intermittent fasting, eating lots of cruciferous veggies, juice, khichdi, and other detox foods. But in general, we want to reduce the toxic burden through awareness and product changes. With diet, we want to eliminate the foods that you eat most often that are also on the common food sensitivities list. Eating more fruits and veggies and hydrating, getting exercise, increases respiration and circulates your blood and your lymph. So cardio and yoga, especially like Ashtanga yoga or Vinyasa yoga, a little more vigorous yoga that builds heat in the body, can help with detoxification. Breath work. And then supporting the detox organs through some of the practices that have been mentioned here, and then supplements such as digestive enzymes, probiotics, and herbal support. So that's basically what we've covered here today: what toxins are, how to reduce your toxic burden, what a nourishing diet looks like, movement is important, and then the practices and supplements to detox, to support your detox organs. It's a lot of information. Fortunately,
it was very comprehensive. Thank you. Lots to think about. Thank you.
It's a lot to think about. I know it can be almost overwhelming at times, but I appreciate that you guys hung in there with me. It was overwhelming for me to share it all, honestly. It's a lot of talking, but I really do feel passionate about all of this. And, you don't know what you don't know until you know it. And it's important. It's important to have these awarenesses, especially as we get older. That's when things start, stress has been building up on the body for a long time. So yeah, important.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
Yeah, my pleasure, Roseanne. Thank you. Thank you, Tammy and Brian, for hanging in there with me. If you guys think of questions or have comments that you want to send to me another time, please feel free to do that. I'm totally here for it. But yeah, I hope you guys all have a wonderful week.
Okay, good night.
It was great, Stephanie.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Oh, I appreciate that, Tammy. Thank you. Take care.
All right. You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.